Welcome to the Workhorse Podcast. It's one of our favorite episode styles today, and that is a straight talk episode. And these are where we get a chance to answer your questions directly. Kendall started off before this recording reminding me to tell you this. So if you have questions for us, you can always follow the link in the show notes and submit a question. The link also lives on my website, moosevalleyranch.com, where you can send in your questions. So we have polled 2, 3, 4, 5,
and also
6.
I should say they're anonymous.
Oh yeah,
I feel like that's important. So if you have a question that you are dying to get answered, but you do not want to include your name,
you do not have to.
You do not have to.
We will answer regardless. So we went ahead and polled. We can usually answer 4 to 6 questions, depending on like how much of a role we get on. So we have a little listy list here to go through with you. And we're going to dive right in. First question. I'm going to edit a little bit for succinctness here. We've been selling beef direct to consumer since 2018. We now have a website, offer free local deliveries, but also ship nationwide. And about 80% of our product is shipped. We never go to farmers markets, but our biggest struggle has been finding a marketing strategy that works continuously. They mentioned they've tried things like Facebook ads, Google ads, Instagram influencers, and they work for a little bit, but then fizzle out. There is a lot going on in this house. Their time is limited on showing up on social media. And so the question is, how did you market your business to gain customers? Or what would you suggest is the best strategy knowing all of this?
So I'm going to say the thing and just say,
tough
know that I'm saying it with like a big old heart. It is a lot harder to market to the entire country if you're not willing to show up on social media and be consistent, show up with your face, show up loud and proud and sell hard. It's very, very, very difficult to market to that many people and that diverse of a client base than if you were focusing on your specific community. And I don't mean your specific community. If you're a town of 100 people, I get it. Like, I mean your region in whatever capacity that looks like. We market an hour and a half around our farm. And that is what we focus on. That is all that we focus on. And that's still me showing up on social media a lot.
See, and I think where I get stuck is because they said 80% of their product is shipped. But I'm going to guess that the overall number is lower than they want it to be.
Yeah.
So even though it's 80% of a smaller number, if your number was larger and that percentage flip-flopped, if 20% was shipped and 80% was local, it just makes it easier to talk to them.
I just think it's very, very hard to market yourself effectively if you are not showing up, if you don't have the time to invest personally in showing up in those different ways, because it's not like popping over to a farmer's market that just happens to have a lot of foot traffic where you show up on a Saturday and that's what you do and you've got time to do that, then great. You don't necessarily have to market yourself really well.
This sweet person that sent this in does not have time for a farmer's market.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
12. Yeah.
That's what I mean. So if you don't have time for in-person selling that way, it's very hard to effectively market if you also don't have time for social media to such a broad base.
Yeah.
If you're focusing more local, you can look at, I feel like more hyper local paid advertisement to me is more effective than nationwide, in my opinion, because at least people have the draw that you are in their backyard. Whether you're just in the same state, whether you're in the same county, whatever it is, people feel more drawn to support things that feel closer to them. They get connection. That feeling of connection exists easier and faster when somebody is in your neighborhood or in your region than it does if somebody's on the other side of the country. So if you're not willing to show up or can't, and I don't even mean not willing, just we don't all have the time. And frankly, we don't all have the desire to show up that way. I just think it's harder to build relationship and that trust when you're on the other side of the country. So I think focusing first off at a little bit of a more narrow region personally.
Well, and I think your money spent, so if you're not going to be on social media in which you're trading time for money, right, or putting both into social media, is to spend money on traditional advertising. Oh my gosh, can you imagine what it would cost to try to advertise all across the US in a traditional, I mean, you're talking like, what, Super Bowl ad? A couple $1 million, throw it out there. that is impossible versus putting something up or sending out mail flyers. I mean, we all like social media is such a big conversation and I get it. It's such a huge part of our businesses. But at the end of the day, guys, like you don't have to be on social media if you don't want to be on social media, or if you cannot because of
Yep.
time and other commitments, you can go down to your local library district and ask them to pull people addresses, names and addresses who have been interested in beef and are in the zip codes 3 nearest you, 4 nearest you, whatever the shipping rate is least amount to. And you could send old-fashioned physical mailers. This card showed up in your mailbox and so can your beef. Here's
Yep.
where you order. Because we're so
I do
close.
mailers. I do
Mhm.
mailers for selling meat. And when we send out our mailers, we use a specific URL on ours and we have a promo code on them. And the reason that I do that is I like trackable benefits. Like if I'm going to send out mailers, I want to know how many actual orders we got from that specific promotion that we did. We do mailers, we do print advertising in local like edible magazine. We have a pop-up freezer at another local. So there's a local business that does a seasonal market on their farm and they run from April until October and they sell vegetables. We went and bought ourselves a small glass front freezer and we do a pop-up weekly with them. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to load up, go refill that freezer. They have their markets on Tuesday. And with that, it's got a big Central Park Farms thing at the front, and I have recipe cards that link back to our website. And we really heavily promote. There's good cross promotion there, but we aren't physically selling there. Yes, I've got to go refill the freezer. There is a time commitment to that, but they get a lot of foot traffic through there. And the really great thing is they get a lot of foot traffic from April until October and then they close. And when they close, we pick up a lot of those customers in the off season. And plus it's just such a small sampling of what we offer because it's a small little freezer that people try our products for the first time and then seek us out to continue to purchase from us in the future. And that's a very small time investment for us to just kind of like they're in our area. We just go and give them a refill. There's lots of different opportunities. We do pop-up events. And we always make sure when we do those pop-up events that we like one-off markets. Jess's market would be an example of that, market in the mountains. But as a meat producer, I'm not necessarily expecting at a market like that I'm going to sell a lot. So I use those as an opportunity to get email addresses so that we can sell to them in the future.
I know we talked about the whole pop-up freezer in a store that's not your own because all the rage right now, and I love them. That's not like a dig at these kind of stores, are the stores that are made up of a combination of other businesses where then only one person has to staff or one business staffs and then it has a whole bunch of other small businesses in
Yep.
it. I love that because the people that are going there are already wanting to support and find new ones. I had talked to a flower farmer at one point who really did not want to be on social media. Like she just hated it. And there was that conversation, get a cooler, put 3 bouquets in the cooler, go check it once a week. And then you have the excuse of like, hey kids, we got to load up and go stock the freezer and mommy's getting a nice coffee on the way. I love a
Yeah.
little treat yourself moment, but you're not like stuck there of being set up from 8 to 4, can't leave, kids get fussy. You're not stuck every week, even if it's bad weather. Like you're kind of taking out those factors that maybe make a farmer's market not as appealing to you in your situation. I just think there's a lot to be said for other strategies than social media in that. And I do agree with you that it's a lot harder to stand out in a crowd among nationwide shipping of beef as it has ever been.
Yeah, I do. I think that it's cheaper to focus on ground shipping. I mean, we've covered this in the episode that we talked about shipping more in detail, but I really think that focusing your marketing efforts on a more hyper local, is there a local, I mean, we've partnered with local gyms where we've given out promo codes because like gym bros, they like to buy meat. There's
Protein.
so many, yeah, like protein. They want their protein fix. And those are always the guys that like one of those customers comes and buys $2,500 of meat every time he comes to our farm store. Like he stocks up when he comes. They bring their friends.
Mhm.
Is there an opportunity to do that? Can you do recipe development cross promoted with another, like we do with Kingfisher, where we do our pop up freezer? I make sure when we're doing recipe development, it includes products that they have in stock. So then she's promoting those recipes and
Which call for your meat.
yeah, which calls for my meat and which lives on my website or is on my recipe card that has my website on it, not hers, but it's also helping her sell more of her product. So I look for those kinds of opportunities for like-minded partnership, for
You know
ways
who
that
is really, really plugged in?
who?
Realtors.
Realtors.
Realtors are such a good untapped market. And I say this because I'm thinking of one right now who has hyper niched into sharing random things about our local area. And now she
Yeah.
has become known as the go-to to hear about, is a new Chick-fil-A store opening? Is something new happening up here? Did she get to try a new dish over there? Realtors are really positioning themselves as the experts in the area to go to because that's how they're getting consistent. Because, like, right, if you're not buying a house, you're not going and looking at all their house listings. I mean,
100%.
all the time. And so that's how they're kind of getting that engagement, and that stuff is becoming a local expert. Can you pair with someone like that? That's not just an Instagram influencer, but like is an invested community member sharing on hyper local things in your area. And maybe when they drop off, that was the other one that I saw a realtor doing, is dropping off like welcome to your new home
Mm-hmm.
gifts. If you have a value add food or even a couple like ground burgers, and then like show them like, oh, you don't want to look like every other realtor dropping off a candle and a bottle of wine. You don't even know if your customers drink wine. Let's send them with amazing beef and a basket full of what they need to make the dinner. Like that's something different.
We actually just started looking at that again about doing prepared foods as realtor gifts, because then all they have to do is they give plastic cutlery,
Mhm.
paper plates, and one of our family chicken pot pies. And then they just throw it in the oven faster than takeout, better than pizza. And you got a meal. And so we've been looking at that more recently too, because the realtors are so tapped in. And then you get your name out there with those people. They try your product and then they want to continue to buy.
I think it's deciding where you're going to spend your time, because you're either going to spend your time or you're going to spend your money. So you're either going to have to pay someone to run a marketing and advertising scheme for you, or you're going to spend your time somewhere. And where do you want to spend your time? Do you want to spend it learning viral dance videos to hope that the algorithm magically shows it across the nation and that those people are actively trying to purchase beef? Or do you want to send your food with a realtor who has a new to town family that's going to be looking for connections to make in their local area, that your magnet can live on their fridge then for the rest of the time that they're in that house, and you can make sales off of them over and over again?
And we really focus on turning our customers into ambassadors for our brand. Good customer service. And that's something else that I feel very strongly that happens easier when you're focused more locally than countrywide, is that those customers, like we even do like little promo codes just for those customers. Or if I notice somebody that's coming in all the time or that's like recommending people, I try to give them a little throwback as a thanks for always, talking us up. We had a naturopathic doctor that was constantly sending customers to us because she buys from us, and she was always sending customers to buy our products. So then when she'd come in the store, I'd throw in a little extra something for her because it was such a tiny, insignificant cost to me for how much like really, really loyal customers she was bringing me. So anytime I'd see her in the store, I'd, throw something extra in her basket for free just as a thank you, because that saves me so much time when my customers are out there, talking good about us and promoting us and getting people, getting us new customers or bringing a friend along when they place an order. That goes so far for us.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Okay, so there's no way we're getting to all these questions today. We'll keep trying.
Until next time.
This one came in through Instagram, so it's a little bit shorter. Is it really a question? It just
It's a
says
topic.
It's a topic. Transitioning from all in-person selling to all online selling. Please note it says all. So
Yeah.
you're talking about an absolute 180-degree shift.
Which I did initially. Now I sell in person too, but we did the full shift.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear
Yeah.
out there. We're not saying like adding in
Yeah.
an
We are
online selling
completely
option. We were talking about completely stopping in-person selling to all online. I really want to know why. I want to know why.
I can't speak for this person, despite the fact that I know who submitted this one. This one wasn't anonymous. The feedback that I get all the time is that people don't want to go to, and I'm not saying a market, just don't
Oh, it's
panic.
fine. You can admit it. No, they don't
No,
want to.
no, farmers markets,
Oh, yeah.
because they are so repetitive. And it's like a
Mhm.
lot of times, especially for farmers, if you're at a market, you're not at the farm getting the
Mhm.
stuff you need to get done on the farm. And a lot of times people are balancing other full-time work. It's happening on weekends. For us, the entire reason that we stepped away from farmers markets is we are a dual family house, meaning my stepkids are my stepkids, which mean they have another house with their mom. And it was really tough for us when the kids started getting older that they'd be at our house and they'd have to go to farmers. We'd have to be at farmers markets every Saturday and Sunday. And then they'd go to mom's and they could go camping. And it just it
Mhm.
just made a really like an imbalanced feeling to our households. So we wanted to get our weekends back. But it is a huge adjustment to go from in-person selling to online selling. And that is something that requires a really big runway. You don't just make that decision overnight. You need to be prepping your customers for that. Meaning you've already figured out how you're going to handle your shipping. I would recommend actually doing delivery before you even stop farmers markets, so that you're promoting it to your customers while they're still at farmers markets, so that some of them will try it out because it's more convenient. You want to be getting everybody on your email list, getting them just like ready for that transition in advance and used to buying online, getting home delivery. What does that look like while you're still in front of them?
Make no mistake about it. You're trading one set of headaches, though, for a different set of headaches. You're not just like, I don't think it's the magic bullet that a lot of people assume that it is, because yes, you're getting your weekends back. Yes, you're not having to schlep product in and out and freezers in and out. But now you're worrying about things like, did they deliver while it was still frozen? Did it get left on their porch? How much more does packaging cost to ship things than to sell it online, where you just sell it in person where you just have a bag to hand across? Like, you are trading one set of difficulties, struggles, and stressors. Did you get it out in time for that UPS second day air? You got a deadline, you got to have it shipped by a certain time, especially if it's perishable. Like, really, I think analyzing that, I just think, right, it's so easy to say this looks like it's such a better model, but not understanding, or maybe not considering the full effects of what that's going to cost you on the back end, that there still is crap, which is why we did a whole episode on people wanting to focus more local, because just those shipping containers for frozen meat boxes are insanity. So if you haven't already, you can go listen to that episode. We'll put that in the show
Episode number
notes too.
24.
20. Of course you looked that up. You're so fast.
I was hoping you weren't going to stop talking while I was
Just
scrolling.
keep going.
Keep
I can talk for
talking.
hours. I can talk to a
Keep
post.
talking.
No, I mean, I think that's true though. And I get it. Wanting your weekends back would be huge. I just don't know that I want to know more. I want to know more of why. But it also sounds, and because I haven't done this, I'm not speaking from a position of experience here, but in hearing you describe that, you are essentially during that runway time doing double the work.
You are.
Because you are in-person selling and online selling in the transition, which is double what you've already been having to do. So I guess pick a season where you can mentally and physically keep up with that workload during your runway.
And here's the thing for me, because I handle my delivery in-house, I was competing against myself during that time.
Luckily, then you win every time.
Yes. But I'm
You're a winner either way.
So at that time, we didn't handle our delivery in-house. So I should clarify. We used a third-party company to do our delivery, but they were a cartage company. So like not a USPS, not a FedEx, like a small local company that did that. But the cost of it was quite high. And in essence, I was trying to convince people who would shop with me in person, where it didn't cost me anything extra and it didn't take me any more work than I was already doing, to instead go and pick a shipping option that cost me money. Yes, they paid a shipping fee, but at the time I was really trying to get ready to like leave markets. So I was eating a bit of that cost on my end. So my long-term goal was to pull out of markets. So I knew I was going to have to take a hit. And I knew that eventually I wasn't going to have to carry the additional insurance for markets. I wasn't going to have the, the wear and tear, the extra insurance for my market trailer, all of the things, all the costs associated with attending a market, fees and everything. But for a while I had to do both. And I will say that does suck. And I did get used to people. I first started it does. Like, it's just,
it does. I'm just, it's so matter of fact. It just sucks.
And at the beginning, I got them to start ordering online for for market pickup so that they were used to using the online store. So I could walk them through any issues they had with that. And then it was like, okay, people were used to that. And then I was like, now we're doing home delivery. Check us out. I was promoting that heavily so that people would give it a go. And just slowly backing out the door and constantly promoting our email newsletter list, sign up so that I could continue to market to these people after we had left the market. But I mean, it's scary, I will say. Like, especially at the time that we left doing markets, we were, I believe at the time, if not the highest, we were like top 1 or 2 for sales for markets that have over 150 vendors. So we were a big producer at markets at the time. And to step away from that while it's like the full-time income of almost my entire family, that was really scary. So it was something that I couldn't just jump and make that change. And that might be different for, this listener who submitted this topic. It might be different for them. They might have the flexibility that if sales drop for a bit, it's okay. I didn't really have that option.
Yeah, this is one of those where I wish I could buzz back and be like, tell us more.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. I've been selling my honey at our local co-op for 2 years, but want to start shipping nationwide, like you mentioned in a past episode. The thought of honey jars breaking in transit terrifies me. Oh my God, this is as bad as the whiskey bottles that crashed. I digress. What's your packaging strategy and how do you handle damaged shipments? Also, how do you price to account for shipping costs without losing customers? Full disclaimer here, I don't ship products. So I cannot answer, maybe you can, but I cannot answer what's your packaging strategy other than it's hella expensive and honey jars are breakable.
So I can, but not from my current business experience. So currently, because we do our own in-house shipping, I don't have to worry about that at all. It delivers out in a insulated, refrigerated Mercedes Sprinter van. And so packaging's not a thing. I don't have to worry about that. However, my background prior to this is in supply chain management and long haul logistics in the grocery supply chain. So I actually have shipped a lot of honey in my day and things in glass bottles and all of that. Packaging is definitely a beast for that. You are going to have to do some tests along the way, and it doesn't matter how great the packaging is. There's always going to be instances that it arrives on the other end where it has gotten too cold that it's crystallized, which I believe is the way that it goes with honey if it gets too cold.
Don't ask me. I hate honey.
So, I love honey.
I hate it.
So temperature variations can come into play depending on the product that you're shipping. Obviously, you're going to have some sort of like insulated styrofoam, whatever it is that's going to be able to like bubble wrap all of the things, making sure that your boxes aren't overly sized in comparison to what you're shipping. You don't want something really rattling around there, and making absolutely sure you have fragile markings on your boxes.
I think that is an absolute scam. I feel like every time I've written fragile on a box is the time that they freaking drop kick it from the airplane to the truck and then they like toss it out while the van's still rolling at 20 miles an hour. And it's like fragile, cute. Thank you.
Yeah, it's certainly not a perfect, but I'm telling you, if you don't have a fragile marker on there, and even if you do get insurance on your shipments, which whether you decide to insure separately or whether you get customer to pay insurance on a shipment, it has to be marked if it's fragile. Otherwise, the supply
I know. I'm just saying. I feel like sometimes the UPS delivery guys take that as a personal challenge. Like
during my lobster shipping days, back when I had just Pinch Me lobster sales, we actually had like a lot of lobster go missing at the airport. They just misplaced the boxes and misplaced. Live lobster
misplaced it right into the pot in their house.
No, you would have thought. I was for sure convinced somebody stole it. And then I got a call a little bit later and they were like, we found the lobster
Because
because
it
it
smelled
smelled.
so bad.
Yeah.
Oh, that is the worst.
Yeah.
I also, this again, one of those ones where why do you want to ship nationwide? Like honey is such a local thing, right? Granted, I'm not a fan of honey, and I'm sorry. Please don't take that personally. It's not your honey; it's all honey that I'm not a fan of. But isn't it like something to do with the pollen and the bees? And like it's so good for you to have honey from bees that have made honey in your area that you're exposed to the pollens and things like that? Am I just making this up out of nowhere?
No,
It's
you're
a thing,
not.
right?
No, you're not. You're not making that up. So that helps with allergies and things like that. If you
Okay.
consume the honey that's like regionally in your area that's got yeah. That's and somebody there is a beekeeper who's listening to this right now and is like, you too.
Pounding their head into their dashboard. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
If you
Anyways,
are, slide into our DMs so that we can
please.
have like actual expert opinion on this moving
No,
forward.
but I just mean like, what's the push? Because the last part of that question is how do you price to account for shipping costs without losing customers? And the point here is you have to charge what it costs. Like you have to cover your costs. You can't all of a sudden sell your honey at a loss nationwide just so that you can say that you ship it nationwide.
The people have to pay the shipping costs.
Right. So,
Like, it has
so
to be a
there's no
cost.
how do you price to account for it. It's you charge the cost that it costs to ship you. And if people don't buy it because it's too expensive, they don't buy it. And then your model is proven bust, I guess. But I'm just saying, like, why, especially in a difficult to ship thing?
Yeah, I mean, now I'm going to totally contradict
please do.
everything
That's
that
why I want
no,
to.
no, I was going to just go against everything that I just said about going hyperlocal. I get the interest in having like a national brand or a nationally
Right.
recognized brand. I get it 100%. And shipping might just mean, did she say US wide?
Want to
did it just say
start shipping nationwide.
Oh,
is
nationwide.
What it
So
says.
it is
Shipping
saying
nationwide.
nationwide. Because I mean, those transport problems are going to be transport problems whether you're shipping to somebody's house an hour away. If
Right.
you're using a third party,
Yep.
using a third party, those shipping issues happen no matter where you're shipping to. And so I understand why a honey producer would want to ship in general if they were not doing markets and things like that. You definitely are going to have to charge in my opinion, as an add-on. You could build some of it into your price. That's the problem that we have with this whole Amazon thing, is that everybody wants free shipping or really cheap shipping. And so that is a little bit of a whether customers are willing to pay more for the item and less for the shipping. It all equals the same in the end. But some people get it in their head that they want free shipping, and whether that means the product's more expensive to get it or they want discounted shipping.
Mm-hmm. You know, you could look at a wholesale thing, because here's my thing is that wholesale shipping, you could do a larger order by freight and really take your time to like make it super secure and pay that shipping once to a store that then could retail, because honey doesn't go bad.
Yeah, regionally distribute it for you.
And go that route to get, like, maybe that's a good stair step to, if you haven't considered it, is if you're already, because it says, yeah, they're a local co-op. So they're already kind of in a storefront, not necessarily like a market or direct producer.
So they already probably have a fee in there.
They probably already have their wholesale pricing. Can you just enhance your wholesale distribution network and try it that way?
And I don't know how it is in the US. I'm assuming it's the same as it is in Canada. Like when I was buying honey for our retail store, I was buying BC honey for our BC farm store, but I was buying it through a distributor. So like I met the farmers face to face at a buying show, but all of it was handled third party through a distributor, and they handled all of the shipping and logistics on it. I placed my order through them. I got to meet the farmers face to face, loved their product, but that's the only way that they sell is through distribution like that.
I don't think it's all that way. I think there are some, and I'm thinking of one specific candle maker who does their own wholesale.
Yeah.
But they also then are through some third-party sites too, I think. Anyway, just a random thought that maybe means nothing, and sorry if that didn't actually answer your question, but okay, moving on. Can I just say I resonate so much with this next question? So I cannot tell you how much I resonate with this. My mother-in-law keeps giving me air quote, advice about how I should run my farm store, and it's driving me nuts. She thinks I charge too much and that I should just stick to what her family has always done. How do you handle family members who don't support your business vision?
I feel like I need context.
I don't need any context.
You
I
do.
can answer this question all day long.
No, you're missing context.
I'm not missing
Okay,
context.
answer, and then I'll tell you why.
Tell them to go pound sand, and if they want it done a certain way, they should have done it themselves.
Unless you're like me and your farm store is on the property owned by your mother-in-law.
You can still say it to them. You can still say it. It's just not going to end well.
Yeah, you can. You can just shoot yourself in the foot too. Doesn't mean you should.
Okay. I mean, I get it. Like, I get it. But at some point too, like if they're,
Nope.
yes. Okay, fine.
That's the missing context.
Are they bankrolling the project and do they write the check at the end of the day? In which case, then it's really more, their advice has to be considered more.
Did you marry into the farm store scenario? Like when it says how their family always did, is that because they have always been retailing off the farm? And I'm not saying that just because you married in doesn't mean you don't get to have an opinion. There's missing context here on whether or not she deserves a right to have an opinion or whether she is like,
I'm sorry, but it says my farm store. My farm store. And I know we're getting into the nuance now of language, and you probably typed this out and really didn't think twice and kind of assumed we would know about hi, they're anonymous. And so we can't even pull the real situation.
Just as somebody who runs a farm store that is my farm store on land that is owned by my mother-in-law, I mean, I feel like this is very similar to...
Right, but would your mother-in-law walk in and say you're charging too much for those hot dogs?
No, she wouldn't. She would put a basket of zucchinis for free on a table outside of my farm store for my customers without talking to me about it first, though.
Those would go immediately to the pigs. Immediately. Where did it? Oh, they must have all gotten taken. I'm so sorry. They were so popular.
A cardboard sign and a Sharpie outside my farm store with no heads up that they were arriving, and like big ones that were overgrown out of the garden that probably
Tell me you just gave them to the pigs.
No, because my customers were really happy about it and were snapping them up as front. By the time I found out, they were already half gone and people were excited about it. But Central Park Farms is my business. It's always been my business. We were lucky enough to be able to, when we sold one of our properties, we were lucky enough for my in-laws to give us access to lease a barn from them, and we run a farm store out of it. So there is I can see why this could be a subject that is tough.
I'm obviously in my spicy era right now because my thing is like, if there's a lease, then there's a signed contractual obligation in which you lease me access to or real estate for or whatever in exchange for monetary value X. The lease does not give you the right to come in and tell me how to run said business if you want to make sure that I make that payment. Because that's the thing, charging too much, like, I'm sorry, you don't want me to earn a living, or you don't want me to be able to make the payment, or you don't want me to be able to take your grandkids to golf lessons. Like, what? Yeah. You're saying charging too much, and that's, I would throw it back. Well, I'll be happy to reduce my prices if you want to give me a free lease, or if you want to start chipping in for overhead costs that are killing us, or if you no,
that's not how it works on our farm with my mother-in-law. She doesn't tell me what I price at and stuff like that. I also don't have to pay her a lease, so also I would not.
But that's what I mean is like, if there
I just mean there's a lot of times there's context or nuance to...
I'm sure, trust me, I'm the one with the family drama all the time, and there's always context. Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's also a point where you have to stand up for yourself.
Sure. 100%.
Like your mental sanity and your autonomy as a business owner. Now, considering if they're half business owners, then obviously they have half to say in this. If there is some share there, you need to be reasonable about what you expect them to. But like, truly, have you had the conversation about boundaries? Have you had the conversation about, like, even in a shared ownership, this is your domain. This is my domain. I'm not going to question you on this. growing zucchinis. You're not
Yes.
going to question me on the price of hot dogs.
Yeah. Oh no, and boundaries are an absolute must. Absolute must.
And sometimes I think that obviously this is so fresh in my brain. I feel like we accept treatment feeling as if there's no other option, like that we just have to accept that that's the way that people are going to treat us. And we just have to accept this sort of overrun in our businesses. And please remember that if you're a successful business on your family's ranch, property, etc., that means you have the skill set to be successful even off of it.
Yes, and you just have to be prepared for that if that's the
Yep.
case. Because boundaries do not work unless you are willing to do the thing you say you're going to do in that boundary. So if the boundary is, if I continue to have this on my plate being said to me, I'm not willing to run a business in this type of an environment. I'm not saying that's that extreme
Right.
in this case, but
Right,
if
but
it
if you
is,
say it, you
if you
better do
say
it.
it, then you better do it. You can't, otherwise it's not a boundary. A boundary is
Right.
not a boundary just because you said it was. A boundary is a boundary because you are willing to and do act on, you know, hey, I'm not going to continue to run a business if this is in this space, if this is how it's going to be. Well, then what's your alternative? Because otherwise, then you just have to learn to tune people out. If you're not willing
Right.
to make a change,
Yes.
if she doesn't change, because I'll be real honest, I don't think I would ever be able to get my mother-in-law to change how she is in general, age, upbringing, all the things, and that is fine. But then if I want something to be different, then I need to be willing to actually do the thing. Otherwise, I'm like, the zucchinis is such a small, for me, is such a small thing for how like generous they've been and all the things that, you know, so I just smile and zucchini.
Right, it's a thick skin, and you have to have that in any time working with family. But I also just don't want to discredit. I think a lot of times, and I know I'm guilty of it too, of as someone who's generationally building something here, that
Yeah.
you kind of feel like the only reason it's working is because of that. And I just like, please remember your value and that you are wildly suited to doing this. If you've been successful on it, you are totally capable of being successful off of it. And therefore, you always have an option. It just may not be the best option. It may not be the option you want.
Correct.
And then it's like, you know, my husband and the children, don't tell them you're going to smash their Nintendo if they do that one more time, when you're probably not going to smash $160 worth of technology. You're just going to end up replacing. How about we say we're going to put the Nintendo up in the cupboards for the day? You know what I mean? He does that. He gets like very.
Oh, I was like, what are we talking about, Jess? This feels very extreme.
No, it's like boundary. It's the boundaries conversation, right? Like if you're not willing to do it, don't say that you're going to. But if your mother-in-law's coming to you and it's like, wow, if she's just making snide comments, have you turned around really directly and said, when you say things like that, it makes me feel X. Could you 100%. Please stop?
Yep.
Have you? Yes.
Because if the communication hasn't been in there in the first place and you haven't actually taken the time to explain, then you can't expect. Now, if you have taken the time to have that conversation and say how you feel and it's still not changing, well, then you need to decide whether that's an environment.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. If you're escalating it to, if you continue to say that I charge too much on X, I'm going to have to ask you to not come to the store anymore while customers are here, or whatever boundary it is that you're going to put on it, you have to be willing to do it. That was the story I was getting to with CJ.
Yes.
My husband loves to threaten the kids with like absolutely unreasonable punishments that they know he's never going to do. And then you lose all credibility.
Of course.
So pick something you're willing to do. Okay, I'm sorry. I feel like I could go on and on about that. And honestly, no one's going to respect you if you don't respect yourself and stand up for yourself. So stand up for yourself. Okay, we're moving past this.
Or just leave the zucchinis outside the store. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, or accept it as the cost of doing business in exchange for whatever great deal you've got going for you, and like smile and nod. A duck in the water, just let it roll off your back and move on.
So that's the nuance that I was talking about, is if it's like just a small occasional, or if it's like, oh my God, and she has like no reason to have any opinion, and it's, she's coming to your farm. She doesn't even have a farm. She lives in the city and she's coming in, you know what I mean? Like,
I would be so petty though. So if she thought I charged too much, I would instantly raise my prices like $1 on every package of whatever she thinks I charge too much, and put all of that extra money into like an FU fund, where then I go on like some bougie vacation. And when she's like, oh, I don't know how you afford to do this, I'd be like, oh, well, it's because I charge too much. Like I would be that petty. Anyways, Sorry. Okay, moving on.
I feel like the mother-in-law portion though is just different. I do.
I already spilled the family tea this
I
month, so
know.
we're
I
gonna just
know.
move past that. Okay. Everyone tells me I should add value to my raw milk beyond just selling it straight. Woohoo! Hey, kudos to you that you're in a state where you can legally sell it, hopefully. But I'm overwhelmed by the regulations on startup costs. I've looked into cheese making, but the licensing seems impossible. How did you decide which value add products were worth pursuing, and what was your first step? Do you want me to take that or you want
Yeah.
to?
No, I
Okay.
know it's kind of directed to value add, which I do, but I think
Yeah.
you have a better grasp of.
So, first off, you're looking at regulations, which to me is a very positive step of knowing what comes first because one, can raw milk even legally be sold? You're saying you're selling it, so I'm hoping it is the case because in some states you cannot sell raw milk for human consumption. And then having that conversation about the regulations and startup costs. Costs are easy, right? Like you can start a spreadsheet, start chipping away. It's not easy, but it's like it's doable. You can find that information. What you cannot do is fix the zoning on your land or fix a government regulation that makes it impossible for you to do that. So I would start there. If you came to me and said, I want to put a creamery on my farm, my first stop would be to tell you to head to whatever regulating authority is first and foremost. Usually with a farm, that's a county, but I guess you could potentially be in a city, township, county, or state, depending on what agencies regulate. And I would just start with a phone call. Call them, tell them what you want to do, and then ask them if they have a checklist. A lot of times these places have a checklist, or they can send you an email, even with things like, hey, you're going to need water testing done every 3 months, or you have to be on city hookup. Well, then okay, I'm either going to have to pay for my well to be tested every 3 months, or I'm going to have to hook up to city water, which like for me would not be an option. Boom. Question answered. And you can like work your way through the checklist. That's where I would start is the licensing, regulation, land use, zoning, permitting, because the last thing you want to do is spend all of this time and energy in recipe development and branding and designing new labels and coming up with products and marketing strategy to launch it and then realize that you actually cannot and the government comes in and shuts you down. What a waste of time.
And step 2 to that would be if you're wanting to see if you can do something without having the full-blown investment, is there a co-packing opportunity? Is there an opportunity for another business that's already doing something to be able to produce small batch? Is there a local ice cream shop that is willing to do a small batch using your product? They're already licensed. They can do that. That's how we got started with prepared foods through a chef. Now we're opening our own commercial kitchen, but I didn't have to worry about any of that because I partnered with somebody who was taking care of it and using a different facility. So that's an option too, depending on what your value add products you're looking to do.
That's such a great idea because if you think about like what little tiny cheese making shop that they can't produce more milk, maybe their
Mhm.
equipment's sitting there half the time not running because they only have X amount of gallons of milk coming in, and you could send your milk and have
And
them
maybe
make
you
you
could do
cheese.
like a little partnership, like, your cheese
Yeah,
buy, whatever. Maybe there's like some sort of
I
cute, which
like
is what we
that.
did with Adrian. If you want more information about that, check out episode 18, where I talk more about value add and how we got started on it and what that transition has looked like so that you can kind of decide whether something makes sense before you dive all the way in.
Yeah, definitely before you start spending a ton of money on anything, have some sort of estimate. And the startup costs, I'm just a big fan of brain dumping, right? Because I don't think about something until I go to lay down in bed at night. And so it's having like a notepad as I'm thinking, like, hey, this cheese making might be a thing. What do I need to make cheese? Like, I don't know.
What are
I'm
my
going to need
equipment
X piece
costs?
of
What are
equipment.
my,
I'm going
yeah.
to need X of this. I'm going to need a milk pasteurizing thing. Maybe I don't know, but like it always comes at the worst times and not when I'm sitting there looking at a spreadsheet that I need to remember this. So I would just pull up a notepad and start brain dumping when those things are coming to you and give yourself a little bit of breathing room to just brain dump and brain dump and brain dump into a note that then you can sit down at your computer and put it into a spreadsheet. And then you can start Googling it. Like how much is a used vat pasteurizing thing? How much is I don't know. I don't know what they use to make cheese. I want to learn, but I don't know. And it seems like there's always a lot of stainless steel equipment involved.
Yes, and that is also something that, like, when we were building out our commercial kitchen, it was something actually that I used AI quite a bit for in that forecasting of and
Mhm.
projections on and things like that for like the what the repayment would be for that. So that's something that you could look at as well.
That's a good segue. Okay. Did we really answer? How did you decide which value add products were worth pursuing? So we answered the second part. We
I
didn't answer that first part. How did you decide though? Like what was your tipping points for that?
Well, I test for me it was because I had items that I was not using. So it was like it was or for me it was chicken bones, so then I started making broth. Like it was a byproduct. I was in essence looking to get rid of byproducts that we weren't using because I didn't want to pay to dispose them.
Mm,
I didn't want to waste them. So that was where I started. Then from there, I realized that there was demand for some of that value add product, so then I just started testing. But because I wasn't starting the commercial kitchen, I had a lot more flexibility to do small batch, which is why I say that if there is an opportunity to do any sort of value add using a co-packer, using another production site, using X, Y, and Z, I would look at that option first if you're not wanting to make a huge upfront investment so that you could test some of those options out. If you've got the bankroll and you want to market it and you want to hit the ground running, I mean, obviously there's only so many different products that you can produce. If you want to go into cheese, if you want to go into, ice cream and things like that, roll it out. But that's a big upfront cost without testing the market.
so I was reading it back as you were talking. Everyone tells me I should add value to my raw milk. Who is everyone? And why are they even telling you that? Like,
But if that's
do
your
you have
customer, then
well,
cool.
no, I mean, I get it, right? Yes. But also, like, if you have X amount, doesn't it take a lot of milk to make cheese? So now we need a cheese maker and a honey maker to correct us on the assumptions that we may have that are wrong here. But like, I believe it takes, I've made homemade mozzarella once. That is the only thing I'm basing this on. But it took like 2 gallons of milk, raw milk, to make like one pizza's worth of mozzarella. So if you're selling all of your raw milk, if you're selling out already
Yes.
and you don't have a byproduct that goes to waste, everyone telling you you should add value to your raw milk, I mean, like, you can also just say, like, it doesn't work for us right now. It doesn't
Yeah.
pencil out. It's not, we don't need to. We don't have an excess of milk. Maybe when we expand our herd, maybe when milk doesn't sell so well. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, just
I
because
think
someone
that brings
tells you
up
you
a really
should.
great, I think that brings up a really great point in general across the board. Sometimes we need to take a look at what type of business we actually want to have. Are you selling your milk? Are you currently profitable? And is it an amount of work that you are comfortable with? Because adding all of those other things, as somebody who has diversified, it is a lot more work and it is a lot more all sorts of things. Yeah, the margins are better. But if you're good now and you feel happy with the profitability of your business now and the workload, then you don't need to do anything with value add. You can continue doing exactly what you want to do and not diversify out. If you're like, oh, you know what? Margins are tight and increasing the price on milk in my area is not flying. It doesn't sell when I raise it, like increase the price. Then maybe you do need to look at, some value add products, but be really do the inner work and the inner thinking to decide whether that is even something that you want to do or whether it's just what everybody else is telling you.
Because that's what I feel like I'm missing when I'm reading that is like, it doesn't say I'm so driven to make the best cheddar cheese you've ever had. It says everyone tells me I should. Well, tell everyone here's a great farm down the road that makes cheeses. Or maybe you build a little farm store for your milk and you bring in someone else's cheeses there. Like there's all sorts of ways to
Yes.
do that if you want to, but just because everyone says that you need to doesn't mean that it's actually the right option for you. And if you're at a point where that is that overwhelming, maybe it's not the right time. I don't know. It's
I
just some
loved
random
it.
thought I had.
That
We're
was
very
special.
deep dive. We woo-wooed on that one too with like the inner, you said inner work and I cringed. I don't like inner
Do the
work.
inner work.
I don't like inner work. This is like the masculine feminine conversation of that other episode where I'm just like, no, no, thank
Just
you.
it's because you need to do some inner work.
Who was talking about anger work the other day? And I immediately got like irate. Like, I don't want to do anger work. And then I thought to myself, perhaps that's a sign that you should do anger work if talking about anger work makes you angry.
Perhaps.
Okay, hey, we might actually get through. We're going to squeeze one more in. I know this is going a little bit long, but I really want you to know that your questions are being answered. So we're going to do this. I know I need to start an email list, but I have no idea what to write about or how often to send emails. I'm scared I'll annoy people or run out of things to say. Where did you start with email marketing and what do you actually put in your newsletters?
Jess, you want to go?
Okay, well, I'm not the email queen here. I do use it and I do have it.
Okay.
But I feel like I'm closer to their question than I am to you a little bit in that. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna like baby handhold you to the first step, and then
Yeah.
Kendall's gonna make you flourish. But I will just say I started just collecting email addresses. You don't even have to send the first email right away. So like if baby step one is just start getting people's email addresses. Then at least you have them, which is what I did first. I didn't send my first email for probably over a year of collecting email addresses because it just didn't. And then what do you actually put in your newsletters? I put everything in there. I put anything in there. I put like literally humans are naturally curious about anything that doesn't look like their own life, right? And our lives generally to what less than 2% are in rural and agricultural pursuits of the population. The odds are anyone on your email list, even my freaking aunt doesn't live her life the same way I do. And she is fascinated by like me going out and chopping down Scotch thistle. It's so routine. I do it in my Crocs. Did it in my Crocs today. That's why I'm saying this. But like, I mean, it's just such an everyday thing, but I just don't worry about whether it feels every day for me and I share it and I just share. I'm just very genuine in my newsletters.
So I would say I'm not
That's where I
disagreeing
would
with you.
start. That's where I would like if like baby steps.
Send the emails.
Mhm.
Email marketing is the number one driver of revenue for our business. It's hands down. If literally every other marketing tool burned to the ground tomorrow, that would be the only thing I would need. It's just that one thing. I send a newsletter religiously every week. This is for Central Park Farms. If you are subscribed for Marketing for Farmers, you have not seen me in a while. I digress. I'm talking about CPF. So with the farm, once a week, I do a very regimented way that I send my newsletter. The first part of my newsletter is a story. Storytelling has always been what I did and do. Storytelling right now is becoming increasingly important in the marketing space. Everything is leading with storytelling. The beginning of my newsletter is always a story, a reminder of what the store hours are, and a button to click to buy online. That's just the order. It's a photo, story, store hours button. Then I have something called the weekly roundup. It is 2 to 3 things that I want to talk about, always has a sales push in there. My story typically kind of deviates into somehow I can make that story loop back around to something that happened in the farm store, whatever, a product that's restocked. I come from it genuinely. It's a heartfelt story about what's going on in the farm or in our lives. But then those 3 things below are usually a bit of a sell. So that'll be a recipe that lives on our website, that once you get to our website to check out the recipe, there are multiple buttons embedded in that recipe that sell the product. It'll be something that we have on sale, something that we're restocked on, a kids corner activity. So I oftentimes will do things that help parents connect their kids to agriculture. I do that really heavily through the summertime. My goal is so that parents have time to drink their cup of coffee while it's still hot. You just need something for your kids, a printable, a word search, a coloring page, a video of Jay teaching something on the farm so that they can play that video for their kids. At Christmas, I'll read Christmas books, whatever it is. It's just some sort of activity for a parent, take something off their plate. The number one feedback, and we get people coming up to us like at a restaurant being like, I read your newsletter, Farmer Kendall, I read your newsletters, is the kids' corner activities. Parents love them. And they love the storytelling portion. They're always like, I feel so connected to you through your newsletters. It's the storytelling.
I love when people respond to my newsletters.
Yeah, me too.
It's like my favorite thing when they hit reply all. And I think honestly, I mean, I heard you teach on this topic enough to know that you really were holding back on email newsletter marketing. And we probably ought to do just like
Yeah.
we should do a whole podcast on that. So we will. But I will say just start getting the emails, start anywhere. Literally, even if it's a plain text paragraph, start somewhere, start seeing what people resonate with, start seeing what works because you can't like fix it and fine tune it if you don't even start. You can't even get better at it if you don't start doing it.
And strategically sign up for a few people's newsletters. And I don't mean so that you copy them. But at the beginning, when I had no idea what to write, what I found is I signed up for people's news. Like, don't sign up for 50 because your email will be out of control. And sign up for one under an email address. Like, make a Gmail account, not a business account, and just sign up there. But then go in, and they don't have to be in your space because you don't want to copy. But go in and see like what resonated, what email subject line did I click on versus not click on? When I opened it, did I like this or what didn't I like? Those kinds of things can be a good indication to you of what you might be drawn to for writing. Because honestly, if you don't enjoy writing your newsletter, chances are you're not going to do it. So making something that feels like you is important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and I just think like it makes me think about what's landing in my inbox right now. And very few, well, one, I'm on a budget, but two, like very few emails are compelling enough to convert for me at this point. I feel like I'm just getting spammed a lot. Even from small businesses that I'm getting, there's not that, I think that must be what it is. There's not that storytelling. I don't feel like I get to see. Yeah, because when I just get like yet another boutique with these are the printed t-shirts available this week, I'm not clicking. It just isn't enough to make me, because I'm getting 55 of them, it feels like, every time. And so if you want to stand out, I mean, that's the one thing that people can't duplicate, right, is your own stories and your own experiences and what's happening there. So we should do. We'll do a full mental note, full episode on email newsletter marketing. Okay, well, we made it through. Thank you for sticking with us. A little bit longer episode today, but we truly hope that this helped. If you, again, have a question for us, link in the show notes of today's episode. It also lives always on my website. If you go to the podcast page on moosevalleyranch.com, you can leave an anonymous Q&A there. As you saw from today's episode, if you can add a little context, that can be super helpful when we're trying to answer it and you hear us go off on tangents because we don't really know. And if you're a honey producer and
a cheesemaker,
sorry, we apologize in advance for this. And we would love to know more. I'm so fascinated by different subsects of agriculture that we don't always see. But that is all for today's episode of the Workhorse Podcast. Be sure to leave us a review, subscribe, do all the things that you know is so helpful to us, and we appreciate it more than you know. We will talk to you soon.
See you next week. If you're listening to this episode and thinking, I need more of this, you're not alone. That's exactly why we're building a growing lineup of courses designed specifically for business women like you who are ready to level up. Whether you're craving practical strategies or systems that actually work for your lifestyle, we've got you covered. Tap the link in the show notes to get early access, bonus resources, and first dibs when new programs drop, because you shouldn't have to build your business alone.